now. We'll stay with the meteorological theme because extreme and unpredictable weather in South Asia means that much of the area, which is home to 1.5 billion people, is becoming impossible to live in. Some villages have even had to relocate. Our Pakistan correspondent Caroline Davis sent this report from the Pakistan-administered mountains of Gilgit-Baltistan.
Forbiddingly beautiful, ice-laden, precarious. Here in Pakistan-administered Gilgit-Baltistan, jagged glaciers, blackened by soil, number over 7,000. They're under threat.
Researchers say that they've seen the weather become more extreme, more unpredictable. And that doesn't just have an impact on these incredible glaciers, but on the whole environment. And as the landscape changes, so too does the shape of people's lives.
This is what happens when a glacial lake bursts, tearing the ground beneath your feet. Entire valleys, homes now rubble. This was Komal's home. Now all that's left, a sheer cliff.
Beneath this place, there was our home. There were a lot of trees, gardens, and it was a green place.
The spot Komal's family lived in for generations clawed away into the valley in minutes. She's still traumatized by what happened.
People were running out of their home. Some people are taking out stuff from their home. They were crying because they were not sure of, will anyone come to us? Will anyone save us?
What do you feel now when you stand here looking out across this valley?
I remember my childhood memories, the time I had spent here. And now as I could see the plain areas, the barren places, it hurts and it makes me feel sad.
Komal's home was known to be at risk 2 years before the flood. They were not moved by the government. The family said they had nowhere to go. The glacier that caused this destruction is just upstream. Coated in dust and soil, it's still melting.
So you can see up ahead Shishba Glacier, that dark patch on the horizon. Now that is the source of the water from 2022. Now researchers had seen that the glacier had started moving forward because of temperature changes, and it led to the build-up of a body of water, of a lake. That lake then burst, and it was the water from that lake that then came cascading down the valley.
Highly exposed to these glacial-induced hazards, and then
there are more areas in this valley also known to be at risk.
Climate change has, increased the intensity and frequency of these disasters across the region. So Hassanabad is one of the villages that is, where glacier-induced flooding has damaged every infrastructure across along this Hassanabad stream, where population, infrastructure, roads, hydropower stations, everything are at high risk of this glacier-induced flood.
This pattern is repeated throughout this region. More than 48,000 people are estimated by the Aga Khan Development Network to be living in high-risk areas. This was the village of Badswat. Homes, a school, livelihoods, repeatedly flooded. Years after the glacial lake burst, parts are still underwater. It's now considered impossible to live even on its edges. The whole village is being relocated. But trying to find land that's safe and has access to water isn't easy.
Driving through these valleys, you can see how many people live close to the rivers and the streams that the glaciers are feeding into. And that's because their livelihoods depend on it, but it's also making them vulnerable.
I can say that after 5-10 years, it will be very difficult for us to even survive. Year by year, we are facing more and more disasters. So we cannot stop these events because this is a global issue. And locally, we cannot do for this thing. What we do is we can just mitigate, or we can just get prepared our people to face such events.
A drill for potential destruction. The village of Pasu holds these evacuation exercises several times a year. They know that if a flood hits, the roads blocked, it could take days for anyone from outside to reach them.
Slow, okay?
Volunteers learn everything from first aid, emergency river crossings if bridges are swept away, and high mountain rescues. Why did you want to volunteer to help people and help with the rescue?
Because I love living in the mountains and working in the society, working for the society. So we are living here, we have grown up here, so it's our responsibility.
Ijaz has been a volunteer for the last 20 years.
Unfortunately, because if the flood is coming, it's a heavy flood, we can't do anything. You know, the area is totally in the washout. But if the small kind of the floods, if the house are damaged, obviously we can do there to help the people and survive, they rescue them from the flood areas, the people, yeah.
We drive higher into the mountains. Even at these altitudes, the environment is changing.
10 years ago, the glacier, you can see from there is the white line.
Mohammed Salah has been taking tour groups to the mountains for more than 20 years. He's seen for himself the change to the landscape.
Abruptly from last a decade, there was a changing, a global warming. It's happened even this year, whole community felt like that. Even we are introducing the winter sports over here, but we couldn't develop an ice rink up in Hopper Valley, even on the high altitude of 2,700 meters.
You said all of the things you've seen, the changes to the winter sports. How does it make you feel seeing all of these changes?
This whole changes, after whole changes, I felt that this is an alarming time, upcoming future. We have not a secure future, I must say. If there are not a proper way of conducting the things to maintain the community, then I think this heaven become a hell for us very soon.
We've been from village to village, from valley to valley on this trip, and people keep telling us the same thing, that they are seeing more changes now than they've ever done in their lifetime. And they're worried that this is just the beginning.
Sultan Ali's home has been narrowly spared, but he knows it may not be again. He says there is nowhere else to go.
You can see my granddaughters. They are very worried, living here, constantly thinking about under what conditions we live our lives. What kind of life is this? If the flood comes, it will take everything away, and there's nothing we can do about it. I can't blame anyone. It's just our fate.
What will this generation remember of this time of uncertainty, when the seasons move and the ice disappears? And what will become of the land they will inherit? Caroline Davis, BBC News, Gilgit-Baltistan.